Welcome to Blogged and Amplified. I am Arjun, turning my blogs and research into AI-powered insights that you can easily listen to and use. So let's dive in.
Okay, so if you work in pretty much any large organization, you know the drill. That mandatory annual training module pops up.
Ugh.
We're
Yeah.
talking the slide decks, right? The maybe not so great corporate videos, and then there's always that quiz at the end.
The compliance quiz.
Mhm.
Designed just to tick a box, really. Not much else.
Exactly. And I think we all kind of know intuitively and anecdotally that these formats, they just lead to fatigue. People tune out. The skills don't actually transfer.
They really don't. They fail to create what our sources are calling transformational change, which is why today we're diving into something different.
Right. And an evidence-based approach.
Yeah, something that seems to be making training, effective finally, but also scalable and actually engaging. We're talking about AI combined with these really sophisticated digital characters.
Okay, so we've got a whole stack of sources here. They're really focused on the cognitive science behind it all, the engagement science of training, as they put it.
Mhm.
And our mission for this deep dive isn't just to say, hey, cool tech, is to really get under the hood, understand the methods, why they work, and look at the science behind why our brains actually respond to a digital character like it's a real learning partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you boil down everything we've looked at, there's one core idea that just jumps out again and again.
What's that?
Experiential learning beats passive learning, hands down. Every time,
Leading it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as they say.
pretty much, we're looking at methods that are taking these big tech advances, AI, machine learning, and mixing them perfectly with, like, the fundamental truths about how humans actually learn best.
Okay, let's unpack that core idea. We all feel like learning by doing is better than just, listening to a lecture or clicking through slides. But what does the research actually say? Why is it so much more powerful?
Well, the foundational concept here is something called experiential learning theory, or ELT. It basically says learning isn't just taking info in, it's a cycle.
A cycle.
Oh.
How so?
You have a concrete experience, then you have to, reflect on it, think about what happened. Then you form some abstract ideas or principles from that reflection. And then, this is the key part, you actively test those ideas out. You experiment.
Okay. So passive training, like those slide decks, it stops maybe after the information part. You hear the concept, maybe read it.
Exactly. It never forces you into that critical reflection or, crucially, the active application. You don't do anything with it.
Right.
But when you get into, say, simulated decisions, interacting with others, which is what these AI characters are designed for, you kickstart that whole cycle.
Okay.
And that deepens how well you retain the information because it's dynamic. You're maybe put in a tough spot, forced to make a decision, get immediate feedback on your behavior, and then you can try again right away, all without, real-world consequences if you mess up.
Can you give us a picture of what that actually looks like? Because, my mental image of training is still clicking next on some slide about conflict resolution.
Okay, sure. So imagine a manager. They need to practice a really difficult conversation. Maybe it's addressing a performance issue with an employee, or even something tougher like letting someone go.
Yeah, high stakes stuff.
Right. So in an AI simulation, that manager would actually have a full conversation, a role play, with a digital character. And that character isn't just reading lines. It's designed to mirror how a real employee might react. Defensiveness, maybe denial, getting emotional.
Hmm. Okay, but how's that different from, say, just practicing with a human actor like they sometimes do in workshops?
Good question. The difference is the AI character acts like a sort of perfect, tireless coach. It's not just talking back, it's giving you real-time behavioral feedback.
How so?
It might pause the scenario and say something like, hey, notice your tone just shifted there. You sounded a bit defensive, or you lost eye contact when they expressed frustration, or maybe you didn't quite mirror their body language effectively in that moment.
Wow, okay. That's incredibly specific.
Yeah, and that real-time iterative practice, being able to fail safely, get that immediate feedback, and try again instantly, that's what drives what the sources call active cognitive engagement.
Which is the key, right, for moving knowledge from just knowing something in your head to actually being able to do it, making it a habit.
Exactly. That transfer is everything. Because training is pretty useless if you can't actually use the skill when you're under pressure in the real world.
Which leads nicely to the next big question, I think. Why use an actual embodied digital character?
Yeah.
With a face and voice. Why not just a smart voice assistant or some abstract chatbot guiding you?
Yeah, and the sources are really clear on this. It's not just a gimmick. The choice is rooted deep in cognitive science.
It's about tapping into our human instincts, isn't it? We're just fundamentally wired to pay more attention to things that seem human-like.
Precisely. When you have digital characters with realistic faces, voices, realistic-ish body language,
Hmm.
they tap into these core human tendencies. Things like feeling a social presence or starting to identify with that digital agent.
So our brain doesn't just see pixels. It tries to, what, form a connection?
Kind of, yeah. It fosters emotional engagement, maybe even empathy. And those things, emotion, connection, are direct pathways to better memory and attention.
And what's really interesting is how the sources link this back to some foundational academic work. Specifically, stuff done in VR labs, right? Like Jeremy Bailenson work at Stanford. We should probably touch on that.
Absolutely. That VR research is kind of the bedrock. It showed that when you, as a learner, are represented by an avatar and you interact with another embodied digital character, your attention and your memory just shoot up.
And why is that?
Because that digital character is giving off all these subtle human cues. Things like where it's looking gaze direction is huge specific gestures, how it orients its body towards you. All that creates this feeling of co-presence.
Co-presence, like you're actually in the room together.
Sort of, yeah. Your brain engages in this as if processing. It's not totally fooled, obviously, but it processes the interaction as if it were a real social exchange.
And we know our brains prioritize social stuff for memory. That's how the simulation gets that feeling of being important, high stakes, which you need for the skill to really transfer.
Right. But then, inevitably, this brings up the big worry, the uncanny valley.
Yes. When something looks almost human, but just slightly off. And it feels creepy.
Exactly. It's unsettling, sometimes even repulsive, and it definitely pulls you out of the experience instead of engaging you. So does that just kill the whole idea of using realistic characters?
Well, that fear is definitely valid.
Hmm.
And the research agrees. If the character design is clunky, if the realism is just a bit off, it creates this, cognitive friction. It gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources point to a really clever workaround that a lot of the advanced platforms are now using.
Well, they basically figured out that trying to make one single perfectly realistic character that everyone finds comfortable,
Yeah.
it's kind of impossible. People's thresholds are different.
Right. What one person finds realistic, another finds creepy.
Exactly. So the solution isn't one perfect character. It's offering a whole continuum of stylized digital characters.
So options. Instead of forcing me to talk to this hyper-realistic agent that maybe wigs me out a little,
Right.
I could choose one that's more stylized, maybe slightly cartoonish, or maybe just photorealistic in a way I find comfortable and trustworthy.
Precisely. That personalized selection lets each user kind of leapfrog their own uncanny valley, as one source put it.
Leapfrog their own uncanny valley. I like that.
Yeah. You pick the style that makes you feel most comfortable, most engaged. It reduces that weird negative feeling from near human failure and actually boosts the sense of connection and trust with your digital coach.
Okay, now here's where it gets, I think, really transformative, especially if you're a manager or leading an organization.
Right.
The data. This isn't just about, having more engaging role plays. It's about the insights you can get. What can AI track here that old school training just, can't?
Yeah, this is a massive difference. When you combine that conversational AI with these embodied characters, you can suddenly track really granular engagement data.
Yeah.
We're moving way beyond just, did they complete the module, or what was their quiz score?
Okay, how granular are we talking? What kind of things can it actually track that tells us if someone is genuinely getting better, not just, clicking through?
We're tracking pretty sophisticated behavioral stuff, things that really show the process of learning, like conversational fluency.
Yeah.
The AI can map the words you choose, your sentence structure, against models of effective communication.
Okay.
It measures hesitation, how long it takes you to respond. It can do sentiment analysis on your tone of voice. It tracks how well you adapt your approach if the scenario suddenly changes.
Wow. So let's take that sales team example again. They're practicing a tough negotiation. The AI isn't just saying pass or fail on the outcome.
Right.
It's mapping exactly where in that conversation their confidence seemed to dip. Or maybe where their tone got too aggressive, and that's where the trust broke down.
That's absolutely right. It gives you this almost microscopic view of how skills are being practiced and where behavioral growth is actually happening. And for someone leading a team or an organization, This isn't just about individual feedback.
You mean aggregated data?
Yeah, powerful aggregated data. Imagine realizing that, say, 80% of your mid-level managers across the globe seem to struggle specifically with reflective listening when they're giving feedback.
That's an incredibly actionable insight you'd probably never get otherwise.
Never. And the direct application of that data is where it gets really powerful for managing people development. Because the AI understands these communication patterns, it can turn those insights into action automatically.
How?
Well, if the AI flags that weakness in reflective listening for someone,
Yeah.
it can immediately queue up a new scenario, maybe slightly different, but specifically designed to target that gap. It personalizes the follow-up.
So it makes ongoing
Yeah.
improvement just part of the process. And it scales.
Exactly. That adaptive feedback loop. It's basically impossible for human trainers to do that consistently, at scale, for thousands of people. But the AI can. It manages all these learners simultaneously, giving personalized, actionable feedback across whole global teams, and keeps it going over time.
Which brings us nicely to that global point. Let's talk about scale and equity. How do these AI characters help break down some of those huge barriers, geography, language, even culture, that always seem to plague traditional, maybe centralized training programs?
Oh, the impact here is potentially immense. Because these AI characters are digital, right? They can inherently offer multilingual experiences. They can be designed to be culturally adaptive. They can offer visual diversity instantly.
So you've got teams spread across different continents.
Suddenly, the barriers of geography and language start to crumble. You can get truly global reach without watering down the quality of the training for different regions.
Okay, but culturally adaptive. We need to unpack that a bit. How does the AI make the training feel right or relevant for a team in, say, Tokyo versus a team in Texas?
Yeah, good point. It's more than just translating the words. Cultural adaptation needs behavioral nuance.
Like what?
Well, the AI can be programmed based on input from global cultural experts to adjust things like conversational hierarchy. How formal or informal should it be? It can manage nonverbal cues differently, eye contact, personal space proxies. It can recognize and respond appropriately to different communication styles common in different regions.
Huh. So the way the digital character might react to, say, being challenged in a high-context culture like Japan might be subtly different from how it would react in a more direct, low-context culture like Germany or the US.
Exactly. To make sure the learner is practicing skills within a framework that feels behaviorally appropriate for their specific context.
Which means you get consistency and relevance. Everyone gets the same high-quality core training, the same best practices, but delivered in a way that makes sense locally. Accessible, high-fidelity training no matter where your team members are.
Right. And the cognitive science plus the field studies that are emerging, they really back this up. This kind of character-guided practice works for learners from all sorts of backgrounds. It supports much broader, more equitable access to what the sources call expert-level development.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together for you listening, whether you're thinking about your own learning or leading learning in your organization. We've really covered a pretty profound shift here. This AI-driven experiential training seems dramatically more effective. Why? Because it taps into cognitive science, forces that reflection piece, really maximizes retention.
Right.
It's incredibly scalable. It can adapt to different cultures, different languages, and maybe most importantly, it provides unlimited safe practice for those really tricky, high-stakes human interaction skills that were always so hard to train well before.
Yeah, and if you look at the big picture, it really feels like the future of high-impact training depends on knitting these things together.
Yeah.
Taking the tech advancements, deep conversational AI, personalized analytics, and blending them seamlessly with the fundamental science of how humans actually learn, how psychology works.
That interaction piece is key.
It seems so. Making the training feel like a real social interaction, even with an AI, seems to be what drives those powerful, measurable results.
So this shift, where the AI character can provide this perfect, consistent, almost expert-level coaching, tracking every little nuance, giving instant feedback, it does raise a fascinating question about the human role going forward, doesn't it?
It really does.
If AI can perfectly mimic that expert coach or be a guide or even a challenging sparring partner, what new roles open up for the humans in corporate L&D? Do the human experts shift, maybe from delivering the training themselves to becoming the architects, the designers, the curators of these perfect digital learning experiences? That's maybe the question for you to think about as you look at the future of learning in your own world.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of Blogged and Amplified. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of AI-powered insights from my blogs and research.